Today I'll be talking about Mary gardens. I'll talk about their history and symbolism, but I'd also like to talk about the idea of a garden and why it's so inherent in our human psyche, and how in the West that has translated into creating a Mary garden. I'll also talk a little about how gardens can be places of peace and prayer, how that is accomplished in realities big and small, and what you need to do to design and create such a sacred space for yourself and others. I do a little workshop through St. Michael's College here in Toronto for those who want to know more about gardens of the spirit. Each of us has our own personal history of gardening, which we carry in our own memory, much of it probably not even articulated. My own garden is small, but Mary is in every corner in flower and form. When I look at any garden that yearns to be a paradise, so many of the features there remind me of her. The medieval symbolism can still be found there. For example, a beautiful gate is Mary, through whom we reach Christ. She is the fountain and Christ is the water. She is our shelter, Our Lady's mantle. She is the Divine Mother, the sacred garden that gives life. For many, the garden is a metaphor for paradise. Is there a better place to start than at the very beginning in Eden? The idea of Eden or paradise is essential to the understanding of the garden in the Judeo-Christian and Islamic tradition. In our culture, that's where we were created and where we were meant to live forever. That is until our arrogance in eating from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil caused us to be cast out. So, in a way, every garden is an attempt to go back to those gates forever guarded by angels with fiery swords and say, we're sorry, we made a mistake, let us back in. Now, we all know how the story ends. In the Western tradition, our ancestral parents, Adam and Eve, were cast out of the garden. That's how we became the poor banished children of Eve. In Genesis, God says, "Cursed is the ground because of you. In toil you shall eat of it all the days of your life. Thorns and thistles it shall bring for you, and you shall eat the plants of the field. In the sweat of your face you shall eat bread till you return to the ground, for out of it you were taken. You are dust, and to dust you shall return." The garden is a metaphor for many things: the earth, the soul, and paradise. This is what the ancients were trying to do when they created a garden. They were trying to go back to that safe place, Eden, the Paradisa, which is the name the Persians gave their gardens. It simply means enclosure or park. This word was translated by the Hebrews as Pardes, and finally, we have it in the first translations of the Bible into Greek, and the word becomes paradeisos, paradise. Another thing we learn from the Eden story is that we are, and we always have been, part of the picture. Paradise was created for us, and we are part of the created world. We are the dust, the stuff that paradise was made from and for. This leads us into talking about medieval gardens and my own particular area of interest, which is Mary gardens. I know that one of the ancient names to describe Mary is garden enclosed. As a result, I came to learn what a Mary garden was, and then I started to think about gardening and how it related to my own spiritual life. In medieval religious painting, we often see Mary depicted together with lifelike presentations of symbolical flowers. Among the flowers are the white lilies, symbolizing her purity and holiness, the red rose, an emblem of her burning love for God, the myrtle, an emblem of her virginity, the violet, symbolizing her humility, the columbine, a symbol of the Holy Spirit, and the strawberry, an emblem of her perpetual virginity and the divine fruit of her womb, Jesus. Gardens composed of these and similar flowers were called paradisums, and paintings depicting the Virgin and Child in such gardens were called Mary gardens. When I started to think of gardens, here are some of the things I came up with. The garden is a metaphor. The garden is reality. The garden is change. The garden is depth. The garden is blessedness. The garden is grace. The garden is artifice. The garden is discipline. The garden is a teacher. The garden is detail. The garden is work. The garden is humility. The garden is virtue. The garden is paradise.